income retirement security. Very simply, this is a program that ensures a client's pension or savings contributions that they've been making. If somebody becomes disabled, they not only lose their income, but many key people within the business are putting significant amounts of money away into retirement plans. You become disabled. Yes, you might have disability benefits coming into your household, but those are generally at a reduced amount, and it's going to be difficult for your client, disabled client, to then save for retirement above and beyond those disability payments. And in today's world, you can put as much away as $50,000 into a defined contribution plan. So these are real valuable benefits to somebody, and we all know that there's been a lot of pressure on savings accounts over the last several years, so these are becoming more and more valuable to clients. Well, what does the retirement security product do? In a sense, it recreates that savings plan for the disabled individual. Really, we look at these for clients that are a little bit more into this, I would call it the savings part of their lives. Our slide says 35 to 59 here, but I would even tell you that maybe your target may be even a little bit more 45 and older. Again, these are typically people that are at a little bit higher income as well. What we will do is we will insure up to 15% of their income to a maximum of $4,225 per month. We have a maximum issue age in this product of age 60. And we have a minimum benefit amount that we would write of $500 on this product. Here's how the product actually works. If somebody were to become disabled, what the principal does is at claim time, we actually set up an irrevocable trust in the name of the insured into which we pay benefits. The benefits aren't technically paid to the individual at that point. They're paid into the irrevocable trust through the end of the benefit period, typically age 65 or age 67. The person really can't get at that money except for some hardship rules, which I'll mention in a second. But the idea is that that money is set aside on their behalf into that trust. It's separate and above their regular disability policy benefits that they might be getting from their group or their personal disability policy. The reason we do that is we want the integrity of the savings to be there when they do in fact run out of the traditional individual or group benefits, but we also want to avoid an overinsurance problem. We don't want too much money coming into somebody's household to where we have an overinsurance problem. So in a sense, those benefits are put at arm's length. They go into the trust at claim time, paid through age 65 or age 67. As I mentioned, there are some hardship provisions in our trust agreement that say if you need the money, for instance, to pay college tuition, to meet a mortgage payment, if you can prove that you're financially destitute, you can actually invade the trust before age 65. Those provisions are within the trust agreement that I would recommend that if you begin to propose this, you read through that trust agreement. It takes you about 10 minutes or so to read through that just to familiarize yourself with it. Our trust is not, it's administered by Bankers Trust, a third-party trust administrator. A question that's often asked is when the money goes in there, what happens to it? What happens is that Bankers Trust has a series of mutual funds and fixed income accounts into which the money can go. The individual does have the ability to control those assets, but they have to go into Bankers Trust series of mutual funds. You can contact any of your Plus Group offices, and they can actually give you a link so you can kind of see what those trust assets, kind of where they are and what they look like. But it's the mutual funds are anywhere from conservative fund up to a growth and income fund. We did want to let you know that we've instituted a new program to encourage the retirement security product to be sold with the individual product. Just to let you know, we started a program that if somebody is medically underwritten with one of our individual policies, our underwriters are looking at those medically underwritten individual policies and determining whether or not the client is eligible for a retirement security program. If they deem that the individual is also medically eligible for the retirement security, they will actually make an offer through an email through the Plus Group office for that client. The Plus Group office would then run the quote for the retirement security program, and by then filling out the supplement, we can actually get that policy issued within a few days based off the medical underwriting that took place on the individual side. That has to be run by the actual Plus Group office in order to give you that rate. You see on that slide off to the kind of right-hand side, there is that minimum $500 benefit, and then the maximum on an individual pay is, again, 15% of income, and I should say that's W-2 plus any K-1 income, up to a maximum of $4,225 a month. That's assuming an individual pay benefit, or the premium is paid with after-tax dollars. If you happen to have somebody who wants to pre-tax those premiums, we can go as high as $5,425 a month. You know, there's logic behind that $4,225. That's actually, if you multiply that by 12, that gets you to your $50,000 defined contribution benefit, or that you could put away into a retirement plan. That's where that number comes from. Okay. Just kind of give you a couple of tips with this, because we see this policy sold in a variety of different, I would say, areas or scenarios. Probably the most common area that we see it proposed and sold is when you just have a higher income individual who you know needs a strong individual product, but they're putting away a fairly significant amount of income into either a 401k plan, or they're participating in some kind of defined contribution pension plan. You know that there's a significant amount of income there, and just proposing this as a dual need. We need to protect your income, and we need to protect those retirement savings because they become so important to you. Let's take a look at doing both with the individual product and then the second retirement security product. We also see this proposed just as a straight-up enhancement to an employee benefit program. You know, it's just like any other type of insurance that we're trying to offer to key individuals with the business. We're trying to put together benefit packages that attract and retain these key individuals, and the retirement security can be an attractive program, again, to keep that very important asset, that retirement plan, intact for them if they get sick or hurt. The other area that we see this done is if you as an advisor are working in the 401k market or in the pension market, and through that work you've identified a company that has individuals within that entity that you know are putting away significant amounts into those retirement plans. By just knowing that, we then have the ability to say, you know what, these are some key people. This is, again, very valuable to them. Let's propose this as a way to ensure those 401k contributions almost as an adjunct to the retirement plan. You know, the last way that I would say is, you know, we often get calls from people that say, you know, I've got a client who's making $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year. They can get maybe $15,000 or $20,000, maybe as much as $25,000 a month of individual. But you know what? They still feel like they need a more income protection than that. Well, this is another benefit that you can layer in on top of our maximum issue and participation limits on the on one individual life. So as an example, we can go as high as $30,000 per month between individual and group LTD on a senior level executive, assuming their income qualifies for that. But then you can layer in this additional $4,225 of the retirement security even on top of that. So again, it allows you to go into those very highly compensated individuals and really protect them fully for both individual personal disability needs and then now your retirement plan. Just to give you an idea of what we would look at with respect to how kind of maybe one of these cases can work. We had a Plus Group office recently do actually a multi-life retirement security program at a law firm. Now, whenever we sell this program with 3 or more lives, we'll extend a 20% unisex discount on these policies, just like we would extend this on an individual policy. We also do this with the retirement security policy. So what the producer did is they went in with the Plus Group office. They approached, in this case, there were about 160 partner attorneys in this firm, some very highly compensated. They had actually just put in a supplemental disability plan, but then came in behind that and offered the retirement security on top of that. Now, whenever you do this, if you can get a high enough participation, we could do some guarantee standard issue, or if you're not confident on the participation on the front end, these policies are offered on a simplified issue basis. And simplified issue means that no blood profile is needed, no urinalysis is needed. We're not going to go out and get doctor reports, but we are going to ask that the insured do or conduct a telephone interview under our teleapp process. Many of you are probably familiar with that, but that's about a 10 to 15-minute interview where the detailed health questions are asked, and it's upon the answers to those questions that we make our offer. And that was what happened here. Because they had just offered the individual plan prior to this, they weren't quite sure what kind of participation they were going to get on the retirement security piece, but they did get about 10% of the firm to participate. That obviously added a good chunk of revenue. You can see there on the right-hand side, the individual compensation was almost $5,700 of first-year commission, and then about $4,600 of annual renewal compensation. So again, solving the needs for some highly paid people within the firm. We did get 10% participation. It is good additional first-year commissions and renewals, and as you guys know, there's additional bonuses, both on renewal bonuses and first-year bonuses that you can qualify for, and all of this compensation feeds into those bonuses. The next concept I'd like to talk about, it's really two, which is going into a business, and while we generally are going to address an individual's individual income needs, we may want to look at how do we actually save a business if the business owner or one of its key people is no longer able to contribute to the profitability of that business. We are going to do that generally with two products. One is an overhead expense policy, and I'm going to concentrate on our loan protection rider in this conversation, and the other is a key person disability policy that we also have available. Let's first talk a little bit about business overhead and the business loan protection policy. The business overhead expense policy, as many of you know, is going to reimburse the business owner for the normally incurred business expenses that they have during that disabilities or during their absence, if you will. So, things like the rent, the utilities, the property and casualty insurance, kind of those normally incurring business expenses. But what we also see in many businesses is that they'll take out loans to expand or grow their businesses. And, our business overhead expense policies will generally pay 12, 18, 24, and we actually recently introduced a 30-month benefit period. But you'll see business loans with 5-year, 10-year, and even 30-year terms on them. So a business overhead expense policy doesn't always meet that need. If you become disabled, that loan has got to be paid off. There's never any provision within the loan agreement that says, hey, if you're disabled, we're just going to forgive this loan. It just doesn't happen. So we've come up with a rider on our overhead expense policy called a business loan protection rider that will reimburse the individual or the institution for those loan payments through that term. As you can see on this slide, you see these loans taken out for the purchase of existing medical practices or dental practices. That's actually something that we see quite a bit of, especially with dental practices. You'll sometimes see younger doctors, younger dentists buying out older dentists. If the younger dentist is disabled, the older dentist wants to make sure that those loan payments continue to be made because they don't want to have to come back into the practice again after they've actually retired. Loan protection would actually pay that older dentist their share of the practice. They'll pay that loan off. You see equipment expenses. You'll see just general business expansion. You see this within medical practices, sometimes trying to buy additional space, sometimes trying to buy additional buildings, making improvements. just a variety of reasons that people are going out and buying or going out and expanding their need for additional income or additional capital. So that's we're trying to uncover those needs when we talk to individuals. How does this actually work? What we do is, as a loan, as a rider, we actually are then going to build a benefit that dovetails with the benefit amount and the term of the loan, and this will be added to the overhead expense policy. Typically, kind of what we see is somebody will take out a loan, and generally they're 5-year loans or 10-year loans. That's kind of the normal business loan that we kind of see. Just to let you know, it has to be at least a term of 3 years or longer. And if it happens to have a balloon payment associated, because sometimes you'll see something like a 10-year term on a loan, but a balloon payment after 5 years, we'll actually just make our term of this rider to the balloon payment, because at the balloon payment, the loan essentially needs to be repaid and renegotiated at that point. You can assign the benefits to the actual financial institution or to an individual who's actually holding the loan. So there's assignment paperwork here. I'll tell you, this is also, it's a great program to talk to banks about. They can give you some referrals. I know every producer is looking for more referrals, and banks love this program because it helps them get these loans paid off if one of their one of the holders of these loans is disabled. So it really helps the bank itself. I'll tell you more practically, what we see happen is that you're working with an individual, you find out that they have a business loan, and the bank itself is looking to have a loan a lot of times insured with an individual product. We're able to put this loan protection rider on that obligation. It addresses the risk more appropriately, and we find that when we go back and talk to the bankers about this, they like it, they haven't seen it before, and it can get the producer a little closer to that banker, again, for the possibility of additional referrals. Kind of in summary, this is all designed to just keep the business open, not to burden the business. If the individual, if the key owner goes down and still has this obligation out there. The other thing to think about a little bit with this is if somebody has a business, sometimes you'll talk to business owners and they'll say, well, I'll just go ahead and sell my business if I get disabled. Well, if you have this loan overhanging the business and this obligation, it obviously reduces the value of the business. But if you can show that that loan's going to get paid off in the disabled owner's absence, obviously it holds the value of the business. And maybe even allows for other people within the business perhaps to buy the disabled owner out. It just gives you, as with anything that we do with this insurance, it just gives you a lot more flexibility. People know what's going to happen. They know these obligations are going to be met. That's what we're trying to do with this particular program. Just a couple of additional kind of plan design thoughts for you. What we typically see is, and you guys see this a lot, you typically write overhead expense with maybe a 30 or 60-day waiting period. What you may think about doing is if you have an obligation like a loan out there and we put this business loan protection rider on there, just to free up a little bit of money to maybe satisfy two needs, is if you push the waiting period back on the overhead expense to either 60 or 90 days, which frees up a little bit of money, then you can throw in a business loan protection rider on top with a 30-day wait. I'll give you an example. We just did a loan recently with a 38-year-old business owner. He's actually buying his father out of the business, but they had gone to a bank for the actual note itself. It was believe it or not, it was a $28,000 a month note. What we can do on our overhead expense riders, we can insure up to $10,000 a month of benefit to a maximum of $1 million, and he had a 10-year payout on the note. So principal actually wrote up to $10,000 a month. We had to go to Lloyd's for the additional benefit on top of that. Our premium on that, gentlemen, it was our best classification, but our premium with a 90-day wait on the loan protection was 90 days, or excuse me, was $505, our annual premium at a 90-day wait. Our premium with a 30-day wait was still only $1,100, so it's not a huge premium product, and it was something that they snapped up right away when we showed it to them. So we were able to get fairly creative with the plan design. They ended up doing a 30-day wait, and what happened on this case is the loan protection rider kind of got us into the business, and while we were in there, we ended up writing personal disability on the owner, and the agent actually ended up writing also $6.5 million term life insurance policy on the owner as well, but all being led in there through the business loan protection rider. I'll also tell you that I keep mentioning that this is a rider on the policy, which it technically is, but if you want to write the actual overhead expense policy with zero benefit, zero monthly benefit, you can do that. This can be, in a sense, written, if you think about it, as a standalone benefit with zero benefit on the overhead expense, and then the rider, whatever the benefit, the loan benefit is, we write that on the business loan protection rider itself. So it can almost, technically, it can be written as a standalone benefit. The next concept we'll talk about is key person disability, and this is a relatively unique product, not necessarily a relatively unique need. You see many businesses that have multiple people working in the business who, if one or two of them were out at any particular time, could really hurt the business's solvency. So that's what we're trying to address with this policy. If one of the key individuals becomes disabled, how do we replace the lost profits, the lost revenue that key person generated for the business? We have a key person disability policy that can do that. This policy is owned by the business. The benefits are payable to the business. By the way, whenever we do that, the premiums on this, because the business is the owner and the beneficiary, the premiums are not tax deductible, so the benefits do come into the business tax-free. Very simply, how this works is that principal will pay off that disabled individual, will pay off that business in the event the individual becomes disabled. This policy is written with either a 90 or 180-day waiting period, and the benefits on the policy are paid in either a monthly benefit or a lump sum. You can do either way through either 12 or 24 months. So 90 or 180-day waiting periods and benefits paid out over 12 or 24 months. Kind of gives you some flexibility. When you get the quotes from the Plus Group offices, you may want to ask for maybe 90-day waits with 12 and 24-month benefit periods, just to kind of give you a feel for what the premium does when you spread the benefits out over maybe a little bit longer period of time. I'll tell you the majority of policies when we write this tend to be 90-day wait, 12-month benefit periods on this. We insure on these plans 2 times the owner's salary, or excuse me, 2 times the key person's salary, up to a maximum of $500,000 of benefit. 2 times the insured's, I should say income, because we salary plus K1, to a maximum of $500,000. The key person, how we typically say who is a key person, is somebody who we want to see generally making more than $30,000 a year and not owning more than 50% of the business. It used to be, for those of you that have been around a while, it used to be that when we had key person policies in the past, there was no business ownership, or maybe the individuals had to have less than 25% ownership. Not the case with this policy. It's 50% or less of ownership. The reason we don't want to do more than 50% is that if somebody owns more than 50% of the business, we may again have an overinsurance problem because we've got them in control of all the monies that are coming into the business, and we don't want to set up for a moral hazard or adverse selection in that situation. So again, either no ownership or 50% or less ownership, working full-time in the business, and we want them to be there generally for at least 12 months. And we're doing that because we want to, remember I said earlier, we want to do 2 times income to that $500,000 maximum, so we want to get a year's worth of income underneath us. One of the most unique things that we've kind of introduced to the marketplace, I think, over the last several years, is if you haven't been introduced to this concept yet, I would encourage you to talk to your Plus Group office, and that is that we are actually doing free or complimentary business valuations and buy-sell agreement reviews by our CPAs and attorneys in Des Moines. Let me kind of explain how this works. You see that box down in the bottom there, you know, the Harris Interactive did a poll in 2010 that just talked about, you know, what were business owners, you know, what were their priorities when they were thinking about the longevity of their business. And the number one priority is making sure that business survives, that business protection. And number three is making sure that their income survives. I will tell you, actually, the number 10 most important thing, which was at the bottom of that list, was exit planning that they wanted from a advisor. And the reason that we kind of think all of this is going on is that as we've gone through this recession, these business owners know that the value of their long-term income is tied up in these businesses. Some of their other assets may have gone down in value. Their 401ks may not have grown as they had hoped. So they know that the value of this business is where their future retirement dollars are going to come from. So they want to make sure that these businesses survive in very good shape over a long period of time. Well, a lot of times people really haven't looked at, if you have multiple owners in a business, what their buy-sell agreements are going to do if somebody dies or becomes disabled. We did some focus group work, and on average, people look at their buy-sell agreements about once every 7 years. So this is a good door opener conversation for a producer to go in and say, hey, if you haven't looked at it in a while, principal will do a complimentary review of your buy-sell agreement and a complimentary business valuation. I will tell you, some interesting things come out of this. Clay Birdwell's office and I did one recently on a architecture firm. You know, we value these businesses 5 different ways. And if your buy-sell agreement hasn't addressed the valuation methods in there, it can be a huge hole in a buy-sell agreement. In the case of the valuation that we did on the architecture firm, in valuing these businesses 5 different ways, one of the valuation methods that we use is book value. Well, on this architecture firm, the book value of the firm was 0. That's the assets minus the liabilities. But called capitalization of earnings, or the projected earnings over the next several years, were $800,000. So if you had in your buy-sell agreement the value of that business as maybe 2 or 3 times book value, and book value was 0, you've got a problem. You may want to change your valuation technique. So it's a great tool for the advisor to then go back to the individual owner and say, hey, here's the valuation that came back. What do you think? How should we address this in your buy-sell agreement? And I'll tell you, in that case, the producer called us up and said, you know, how much do we owe you for this? This is fantastic. It was very comprehensive. It really gave them a good, clear picture of what their agreement had in it, or what their agreement said versus what the valuation said. And we said, you know, as we said earlier, this is free. We just hope that if they make a decision to move forward, they consider principal for the disability buyout and hopefully even the life insurance. What we need to do these valuations and the agreement reviews is a copy of the buy-sell agreement, and we need 3 years taxes, corporate income taxes. That allows us to give you an accurate valuation. Generally, it takes us about 15 days to get the valuation and a review back to you. The last thing I'm going to talk about with respect to kind of concepts that we think can open some opportunities for you is what we call a fallback guarantee standard issue offer. You know, many of you have had experience with guarantee standard issue offers, which are simply, we walk into a business, we are looking generally to enhance a disability probably a group disability program for a group of executives. We make a offer based on a guarantee standard issue offer of a certain monthly benefit if everybody participates in the plan. A guarantee standard issue is an offer where the individual is going to get our best rate with no modifications on the policy. So if they had, for instance, a back problem, there's not going to be a back waiver. If they had type 2 diabetes, there's not going to be a modification in the policy and a rating like you would normally get with an individual plan, individually underwritten plan. you're going to get our best rate with no modifications in the plan design. Very typical in the marketplace. But what we've seen is sometimes going into those cases, you'll have a few people who will need benefits even in excess of the guarantee standard issue offer and need to go through medical underwriting to get the highest benefit amount. Sometimes we see in competition that other producers kind of go in there and they just sell the GSI benefit and that's it, as opposed to really trying to sell what the client needs. If you sell what the client needs and it's above the guarantee standard issue, we'll take people through the medical underwriting. But if for some reason they don't get our best rate or they have some kind of a waiver modification in the policy, we'll still offer the guarantee standard issue benefit. So for instance, you might see somebody, and we actually just did this recently. Actually, Tim O'Brien, I'll just tell you, Tim O'Brien's office did this with us on 20 executives about a year ago who we offered a $6,000 guarantee standard issue offer on, but we had several executives in there that needed more than $6,000 a month, and we took them all through medical underwriting. That case produced about $60,000 in premium, of individual disability premium. Most of the people in there obviously went through medical underwriting fine. There were no problems, but anybody that didn't make it through got at least the $6,000 per month. And if we happen to modify that policy through underwriting, we'll actually issue two policies. We'll issue the guarantee standard issue benefit, and then we'll offer the difference in whatever modified policy we might have to do, and the client is obviously has the choice of whether to take that offer or not take that offer. So these can work out, and they can generate significant amounts of additional premium on top of just the guarantee issue offer. Typically what we're looking for on this is a minimum of 10 lives. We say a maximum of 30 lives. That tends to be the wheelhouse for this, but they can certainly be more lives than 30. We're typically looking at somebody who's trying to, again, attract and retain those highly compensated key people for their organization. This is another benefit that really addresses their need in particular. What you're typically seeing with this is that we're going to replace about 80 to 85% of a client's take-home pay or insured's take-home pay. That's kind of where we go with this. It's generally 75% of gross pay, but many of these we end up putting the individual in on a tax-free basis. You see target occupations down there in the last bullet. What we're typically looking for are white-collar, professional, well-established businesses where the target group is executive or managerial in nature, professional in nature. This last slide kind of rounds out that conversation a little bit. We've had some changes, a few changes a little bit where we've actually increased some of the occupation classifications. You can see here that those occupations in orange have actually been improved, but these are our, we call select occupation targets, if you will. These are occupations that we've given an additional 10% discount off of our best rate. You can see them all here, from architects to engineers to senior level executives earning over $60,000 a year, pharmacists, professors. We've actually increased several of these to make it a little bit, to help you hopefully get into a couple more of these different occupations throughout the coming year. I hope that some of these concepts, kind of open up some new thoughts for you. I can tell you that if you bring these concepts to some of the smaller to medium-sized businesses that you work with, you will find that you will develop more revenue. You'll be able to meet varying needs and really help these businesses survive if, God forbid, somebody does get sick or hurt for an extended period of time. Please contact your local Plus Group office for any additional marketing material or additional questions that you have. But I know Tracy will open this up now for questions from any individuals out in the webinar world. So.
Yeah, if you would like to ask a question, you can just type it in on the pane on the right where it says questions. I don't see any at the moment, but I think, Don, you did a great job. That's why. He's very thorough. So again, if you have a question, you can go ahead and type it in. If not, or if you think of something at a later time, please go ahead and contact. Oh, here comes one right now. The copy of the presentation will be sent out to you. Usually that will be available tomorrow. You'll get a follow-up email, and it will be available. Okay, the next question I have is, can a group of CPAs get a 10% discount on top of the multi-life discount?
Yes, they can. They'd be eligible for that. So that'd be a total of 30% discount.
Okay. Next are, what are the income doc requirements?
For the guarantee standard issue or fallback GSI offers, the income docs are typically going to be a census from the employer, just generated by the employer. Typically, that's all we're going to need. For the business products that we were talking about, the key person and the business loan protection, we're going to need the personal tax returns of the individual plus the business tax returns, the 1120 or the 1120S. And with the loan documentation, or the business loan protection writer, we'll need the loan documentation as well. Okay. For retirement security, if those are sold if that is sold on a standalone basis, those are done on a simplified issue basis, and there is no documentation required for those. That's retirement security only, sold on a standalone basis. Okay.
Great. Next one is, how do you calculate medical requirements for DIRS alone or with DI?
Okay, standalone, those are all sold on simplified issue, age 60 and younger, simplified issue, which is no medicals, just the telephone interview. What was the second part of that? Was it?
How do you calculate medical requirements for DIRS along or with DI? I don't know if that meant along.
Yeah, and if it's a multiple life case, same thing really. A lot of times we're just getting a census from the carrier, from the company rather, and using that as our documentation.
Great. Any other questions? If so, please type them in. And again, if you think of something later, please feel free to contact your local Plus Group office. And as mentioned, the presentation, as far as the PowerPoint and everything that Don said, will be sent to you, and you should all have that by tomorrow. It takes a little while to process, and it'll also be hung on the Plus Group website at www.plusgroups.com. Again, probably not until tomorrow. Don, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for attending, and please go to our website to check out information about future webinars, and we again appreciate you attending. Don, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great day. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.